Here we go. We are back. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Episode 456 of the All Dolphins podcast for Monday, January 27th, the day after the Kansas City Chiefs, as usual, inevitably won the AFC title. Perk, you were all over it with again, doing what they do, finding a way to win, defeating the Buffalo Bills 32-29. Philadelphia Eagles defeating the Washington Commanders 55-23. A little bit of a spanking there. But we're here to talk about the Miami Dolphins. We will mention the title games as they relate to the Dolphins and discuss everything else, probably starting with Tyreek on Twitch. How are you, Park? Chris Perkins joining me.
I'm good, baby. I'm ready to talk some Tyreek. Let's do it.
It's funny, before we started the show, Perk and I were talking about Jimmy Butler and what an absolute mess of a situation that is going on with the basketball players. I know it's some of you may be just Dolphin centric. Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat involved in a nasty standoff where Jimmy wants more money. No, I'm sorry. He wants an extension beyond this year, and he's got an opt-in for next season. And the Heat are basically saying, you're not getting an opt-in. And Jimmy is like, well, I have no joy anymore. And it's gone back and forth, and now he's been suspended by the Heat for a third time. Tyreek's not quite that bad, is he, Perk?
No, he's not. But let's give it some time here. No, I don't think things will get to that stage. But look, I think that it's interesting with Jimmy Butler in that, this is what happens with the Heat. With pretty much all of their superstars is that they leave disgruntled, and then eventually after a couple of years or whatever, they come back into the fold. Happened with Alonzo Mourning, happened with Tim Hardaway, happened with Shaq, happened with LeBron, happened with Dwayne Wade. And so Jimmy Butler, it's happening with him right now. We'll see if Jimmy comes back into the fold. It was ugly with LeBron. It was ugly with Shaq. They both came back into the fold. I imagine he'll be back into the fold. He'll have his jersey hanging up in the rafters someday, but it's not happening before the trade deadline. I'll tell you that, the February 6th NBA trade deadline.
No, and you'll have to excuse the constant sneezing in the background here. I have a son who's dealing with a little bit of a cold, who was on a sneeze fest over here. So hope he feels better soon. Feel better soon, Eric.
Yep.
Love you, buddy. Tyreek, as I mentioned, the Tyreek Twitch comments, the line that struck me, well, first of all, he kind of insinuated that anybody who was suggesting that he was one of those guys who was late to meetings is wrong. And he said, I don't remember the exact words he used, but something along the lines of he was hurt. And then the line that really got me, beyond wants to put pressure on the organization to add players, in much more colorful language than that.
Yeah.
He also said, I felt like I deserved to vent. Like, really? Like that? Really?
Yeah, Tyreek is selfish. We know that, and so that's, to me, that's kind of the root of this whole thing, is that Tyreek is selfish and he doesn't know how to express himself in the best way possible for all parties involved. It's all about Tyreek and how Tyreek feels at the time, and that's all that matters. And it can't be like that all the time in a team sport. You've got to give your other players and your coaches and your front office time to breathe and time to digest things and time to work through things. And look, I know it's been, 3 seasons, but Tyreek, they've been really good to you. And the fact that it hasn't worked out, y'all do need to add some dogs. And I'm talking to Tyreek here. Y'all do need to add some dogs. You're exactly right about that, but you don't vent after a painful loss in that fashion. In the same way, you don't troll your fans after a painful loss at Houston. Like, it's not all about you. And I hope that that's what Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer tried to break down to Tyreek. My fear is that they told Tyreek, look, we'll get you your receptions. We'll get you your numbers. Just settle down and let us work it out. I hope they told him, don't be so damn selfish. But I think they told him, we'll make it right for you. We'll get you your numbers. Because to Tyreek, it's all about Tyreek, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's like, and the other part of it too, and I said this before. What is it? That was his 9th year in the NFL. It's the first time he's missed the playoffs. Like, dude, seriously, relax. I understand, like, when you play for the Chiefs, it's become basically, it's almost like a rule that the Chiefs have to be in the playoffs and the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. But not every team is the Chiefs. And guess what? You were with the Chiefs and you wanted your bag, or you wanted a bigger role in the offense to be the guy in the offense as opposed to Travis Kelce, and you basically asked to leave. And if you followed Tyreek along for the past couple of years, I mean, my Lord, if we put him on a lie detector machine and asked him, do you regret having pushed your way out of KC? I'm going to guess the feeling that he would say yes. Although unless it's all about the cash, in which case, no, because the Chiefs were not going to pay him. But it's a little much. And I'm like, it's really aggravating. And I'm like, I've been very vocal about my belief that Tyreek's the most important player on this team to make it what it is. But at some point, it's like, dude, okay, you need to be a team player, and you're not. And one thing immediately, if he's a team captain in 2025, somebody's got to explain that one to me.
Yeah, and you know, Poop, what I want to know right now is what's become of those comments with Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, Mike McDaniel, his coach, and Chris Greer, his GM. Has anybody even texted him and said, hey, I hear you, let's talk about this later? Or has it just, I don't expect anybody's going to get him on the phone and say, Tyreek, explain yourself. But just kind of check in with him. Hey, I see what you said. Let's talk in a week. Let's check back in a week and let's kind of expand. I hope that these comments have not just fallen on deaf ears in the Dolphins organization or in Tyreek's world. I hope that somebody has kind of texted them or just called them and, hey, we don't need to talk about this right now, but at some point, let's kind of hash this out. Let's have some follow-ups on this and let's figure this thing out. I just don't think it's not good. It's not healthy. It's not right to just leave that stuff hanging out there. Like you got to figure this out for the good of your team and for Tyreek's role being clearly defined in the team. Like you can't just go off like this after a painful loss. Like that's chaos. That's anarchy. That's disarray. You cannot have that. They've got to get Tyreek in line. And I don't mean that in a like he's a loose cannon. I just mean you're a team. Like you've got to work together, and especially the team captain, especially the captain.
No, I agree. And if we notice, nowhere in his comments from Twitch was it about the Dolphins.
Right.
I need to do this and all that. It's well, yeah, the Dolphins need to do this for me.
Yes.
Like, they need to get me some. I mean, a little
yes.
much. Okay, and we don't need to tell anybody this, but again, Chiefs have now gone 3 seasons without Tyreek.
Yep.
Won the Super Bowl, are playing in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So obviously not about Tyreek. As far as, I guess the next question when you look at these games is can the Dolphins reach that level? We're not even going to talk about Kansas City because they're so unique.
Right.
And yes, I have CFS, but I also recognize greatness, and that's a ridiculously great team. For a couple of reasons. Their coaching is superb. Mm-hmm. Both Andy Reid offensively and Steve Spagnuolo defensively. And they also have a quarterback who, no matter what he does in the regular season, when the Chiefs need a play, he's going to make a play. Yeah. And when the critical moment arrives, he's going to get it done. He is insane. As good as Tom Brady, maybe better. I mean, the dude's ridiculous. And I look at that team, and until Andy Reid retires, Steve Spagnuolo retires, Patrick Mahomes slows down. I mean, because again, the supporting cast is good. It's sure as hell not Philadelphia Eagles good in terms of the depth of the roster. And I'm gonna like challenge you to name me 4 starters on that defense yesterday. And I'm looking at the secondary because I did some story for Miami Dolphins on SI.com today about how just they hit the draft. Well, they use their guys in the draft and they develop. I mean, they have a 7th round pick who had never heard of, named Najee Johnson starting in the secondary. Another kid named Connor. I had never heard of him. So what we know is Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, Nick Bolton, basically. Yep. Oh, and George Karlaftis. who's really good, but they make it work with anybody because they'll have those guys. So that's not the target for the Dolphins. The target has to be the Buffalo Bills. And how close are the Dolphins from the Bills, really?
They're a world apart. They're a world apart. And look, Poop, it's easy to talk about the 4 quarterbacks in the championship game, and they were all really good and are really good players. But look, the 2 best coaches in the Super Bowl could be the 2 defensive coordinators, right? Steve Spagnuolo and Spagnuolo and Vic Fangio.
Sorry, you don't have to do this.
Right.
You don't have to do this.
Right.
Sorry, Dolphin fans who can't stand Vic Fangio. The dude can coach.
He can coach. Both of these teams play some good defense. Both of these teams are able to run the ball. I mean, Philly with Saquon. Kansas City can't run it like Saquon. Few can, but they have different ways to win. It's kind of what I'm getting to here is that, yes, the 4 quarterbacks were outstanding. I heard something about Washington that I haven't checked out, that they had gone 10 straight games without a turnover before the 4 turnovers yesterday.
So, yes.
And so that's another, so you've got to go beyond the quarterback and look at other elements in these teams. And these are things that the Dolphins don't have, that there's only one way pretty much the Dolphins are going to beat you, and that's with that big passing game. The second best way is probably a Jason Sanders field goal. But they aren't going to beat you with their edge rushers or their secondary or their defensive front or, tight end slot receiver, running back combo. Like, they've got to develop other ways of winning. They've got to develop more things that this team can do. And to me, that's one of the things, probably the biggest thing that stood out about championship weekend is that those 4 teams were not all about one thing. They can beat you in different ways, or they have different elements of the game that can stand up and shine at different times. I would love to see the Dolphins move more toward that direction. And look, they did try last year with Fangio and Jalen Ramsey. It didn't work out, but you've got to continue going down that path. Hopefully they will.
It didn't work out. To a certain degree, worked out in another certain degree. They got killed by injuries on defense at the end of last year. Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jerome Baker, because that defense gave the Dolphins a chance to win the finale against Buffalo and kept the Dolphins in the game against Kansas City while the offense could do nothing. The big difference between the defense last year and this year, and say which one about Vic Fangio, Dolphins had 27 takeaways in 2023. They had, I saw it was 16 this year. That's a pretty big drop. And this is why. Sorry?
And the sacks also.
Correct.
Yeah.
So while the Dolphins improved in terms of yardage allowed, they didn't make those game-changing plays. And that's kind of like a big deal. By the way, the Washington stat was wrong. I think it's KC you're looking at, hadn't turned the ball over in 10 games. Washington had 5 turnovers, in fact, in week 16 against the Eagles, and yet still were able to win 36-33, partly because their quarterback's a complete joke. And I mean joke as in I mean that in a good way. Of course, he's got a major flaw, though. One part of his game that really cost the Commanders on Sunday is he can't stop the run. So bad Jaden Daniels. Bad Jaden Daniels. But anyway, no, that kid's special.
He's special.
I'm looking more at Buffalo because, again, the Kansas City is an outlier, and Philly, their roster is just
loaded.
Loaded.
Yep.
And it's draft after draft of nailing guys, something the Dolphins haven't done. I wrote about this on the website. Again, please check the website, guys. Subscribe the podcast, the website as well, please. Check it out. And the Dolphins kind of had their shot in 2020 and 2021. This is I'm not breaking new ground here. 10 picks overall in 2020, 5 in the first 2 rounds, and you got decent players, no really impact players. It was 2 Austin Jackson, Noah Benogany, Robert Hunt, and Raekwon Davis. And then had 4 picks in the first 2 rounds in 2021. It's Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Lee Meikenberg. Again, it's not a ton of busts, but not enough impact. And then the Dolphins got killed by going with their let's bring in all the stars approach, which cost them premium picks, left them with 4 only in 2022 and 2023, where you couldn't miss. And guess what? They missed on their top pick in 2023. Cam Smith, bad so far, unless barring a turnaround. And they missed on their 2022 for top pick, who was Channing Tindall. And then you're looking at the Eagles. But we need to bring it back to the Bills. The Bills are going to be an issue for the Dolphins as long as Josh Allen is there, because, sorry, Dolphin fans, he's a level. Say what you want. I know there's Dolphin fans who absolutely have to hate the Bills and think I have this man crush on him because I think he's a stud, and he is, even though at some point he should have turned over to his offensive coordinator yesterday and told him, can you stop with the damn quarterback sneaks on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1? Because they were 3 for 6. They ran it 6 times, 3 for 6. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
But he's still there. The rest of their team looked pretty average to me yesterday. There's nothing special about the wide receiver core. James Cook's a complete stud at running back. Their offensive line, for the accolades they get, I think is a tad overrated. And it certainly showed against the Chiefs.
Yep.
And their defense yesterday wasn't good at all, although it didn't help that they were without 2 starters in the secondary.
Yeah. To me, Buffalo is it's like Mike McDaniel said, they're one of those teams that they just wait for you to make the mistake. And we see that with the Dolphins games. And we've talked about Josh Allen. That's right. The power of recall, baby. We talked about Josh Allen outplaying Tua. Tua has not really. I mean, the 31-10 game wasn't good, but 30-27, he played a good game. 32-29, 2 years ago, he played a good game. 21-19, victory. Tua plays a good game. Not a great game, but a good game. But
took care of the ball, and he had the one long shot to Waddle.
Yes, but really, it's that Tua doesn't make enough plays against Buffalo, and really overall that Josh Allen just outplays him, and they'll wait for Tua to make a mistake, or they'll wait for the Dolphins to make a mistake, such as the Raheem Mostert fumble. Buffalo doesn't necessarily kill the Dolphins. I know 48-20 they did, but they don't necessarily kill the Dolphins. They pounce on the Dolphins' mistakes. They really, really pounce. The Jordan Poyer, unnecessary roughness. And then you kick the 61-yard field goal to win. I mean, Buffalo is a world better than the Dolphins, but a lot of these games come down to Buffalo makes the plays. They don't make the fatal mistakes, and the Dolphins do. And this is one area where I would like to see the Dolphins catch up to the better teams in the league. And again, Mike McDaniel talked about it before Buffalo, after Green Bay, that there are teams that wait for you to make the mistake, and the Dolphins just time and again seem to hurt themselves, and the other team takes advantage, game over, and that's a wrap. I want to see the Dolphins improve their mental as much as improve the draft and all that other stuff.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for teams that just know how to win.
Yes.
And avoiding mistakes on offense is certainly a big part of that, because I said before the playoffs, and nothing has changed my mind. To me, I think the most talented team, the most explosive team in the AFC wasn't Buffalo, wasn't Kansas City, it was the Baltimore Ravens.
I agree.
But they basically pooped the bed at Baltimore with the turnovers, the 3 turnovers, and then the dropped 2-point conversion. And that's how you lose games in the playoffs. And the Chiefs don't do that. And the Bills didn't turn the ball over, but they were garbage and short yardage, and their defense really couldn't slow down Mahomes. So the other issue with the Dolphins to me in the AFC East is I think New England is going to be a problem very soon. The Jets, again, if you judge introductory press conferences, Aaron Glenn did a really good job today, but it's an introductory press conference. It's still the Jets. It's still an organization with an owner who's been known for questionable decision-making. They have a mess at quarterback. I think they're going to need some time. The Patriots, to me, are just doing everything like to make themselves contenders, and it could happen fast. Drake May at quarterback, who to me showed a ton of upside as a rookie. And then they hired Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. And as I said before, you put away everything he's done as a head coach when he's the only one who got anything out of Mac Jones as a quarterback. And that was as a rookie. So I think that team's going to be a problem sooner rather than later. And I'm not so sure, if you ask me at this right moment, if the Dolphins are not going to be closer to the Patriots than they're going to be to the Bills.
I still see the Dolphins as the second best team in this division, but there's just, are the Dolphins a 10-win team? I don't know. I think they should be a 9-win team, with what should come back and what you expect for them to add. But can they get to 10? Can they get to 11 and possibly host a first-round playoff game? I don't know. I don't know. So I don't. They have enough talent, and the expectations are that they should be a playoff team. I can't say that they definitely will be a playoff team. Buffalo is winning the division, right? I mean, we can agree on that. They're winning the division the way it looks right now. I don't know that any of the other three teams make the playoffs in the AFC East.
No, it's depressing because it's like you're barely finishing a season and you look ahead and it's like, why would anybody expect realistically anybody other than Buffalo and KC winning their division? Houston could be a strong favorite because now, and by the way, we should point that out that they fired Bobby Slowick as offensive coordinator, whose brother is Ryan Slowick. And Bobby Slowick had worked with Mike McDaniel. I put 2 and 2 together and it didn't equal 4 because the Dolphins wound up hiring Robert Prince away from the Dallas Cowboys to become their wide receivers coach.
Yeah.
As I wrote not too long ago on Miami Dolphins on SI.com, and as your colleague David Foronis wrote on SunSentinel.com, a lot of smoke about Darrell Bevell leaving perhaps to join the Las Vegas Raiders coaching staff. He has a long history with Pete Carroll, the new Raiders head coach. So there's something there. Dolphins did lose Reggie McKenzie to the Tennessee Titans to an executive position. However, because it's not head coach or GM, there are no compensatory picks coming the Dolphins' way. Anthony Weaver remains in the hunt for the New Orleans Saints head coaching position. If he winds up getting hired, there's no compensatory picks coming the Dolphins' way because he's only been with the Dolphins for 1 year. Jonnu Smith, tip of the hat, named to the Pro Bowl roster as the replacement for Travis Kelce, who can't play again, poor dude. Or I should say participate in the Pro Bowl games, the fun and frolicking of the Pro Bowl games, because he's going to be busy with the Super Bowl. There's some – Chris Jones is also on the roster. There was some thought maybe Zach Sealer could be the guy. I haven't seen anything break on that. Chris Jones obviously is not going to tell the Chiefs, nah, no Super Bowl for me. I'm going
to Orlando.
I'm going to – you just won the AFC Championship game. Where are you going? I'm going to Orlando. Somebody else who made the Pro Bowl, Robert Hunt.
Yeah.
And this brought back a discussion I addressed again on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Perk, could this have played out any other way for the Dolphins? Should they have retained Robert Hunt and whatever was necessary, considering that if you ask most observers, the number one need right now probably is an interior offensive lineman?
Yeah, it could have played out a different way, but you would have had to sign him after let me get my years right, after the 2023 season, right? Before he had that outstanding 2023 season. You would have had to sign him in that offseason.
No, he was not.
2022.
Oh, no, correct. No, after 2022, correct. After 3 years.
Yeah. So, so you waited just like you did with Christian Wilkins, and I wouldn't have re-signed either of them in the last offseason. They were too expensive. They were just too expensive. The time to do it was the year before, and so that's where the mistake was made. Now, look, Rob Hunt wasn't nearly as valued the year before, so you could argue it both ways. You could have got him on the cheap, or you could have been locked into a guy who isn't that good. The problem is the Dolphins didn't have the foresight. And so now Rob Hunt leaves and you're in search of a guard and he's in the Pro Bowl. So really, to me, it wasn't the fact, should you have signed him for $100 million? It's you let the opportunity to sign him on the cheap go by, and now you've lost a Pro Bowl guard, and you're sitting here looking for two guards.
Yeah, and that's part of the roster building of a team. And the Dolphins have not necessarily been terribly adept at that. They've looked for the quick solutions with going out and getting the big names, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb.
Right.
And that comes at a major cost, number one, and a ton of cap space, and number two, draft picks. It's not a way to build a winner, although this is where you can turn around and say, yeah, it worked for the Rams.
And the Buccaneers.
Okay.
But no, I agree with you. Like two teams, you add Matt Stafford and then you add Brady and Gronk, and you catch lightning in a bottle. But it's rare. It's very, very tough. I was for the Dolphins doing the F those picks, let's go all in approach. I'm still all for that. I'm still for the win now in 2025. But man, get a freaking running back. Expand your offense, expand your team. You've got talent. You've got to adjust philosophically and strategically. We can even explain this to discipline, right? All of these, I'm just thinking that Philly and Kansas City don't have discipline issues, right? With player, I might be wrong, but I'm just guessing that guys are at meetings on time and guys aren't speaking out of turn and blowing off steam and trolling the team. And I know I'm picking on Tyreek on all this stuff. Getting pulled over before the season opener. I just can't think of stuff with other guys. I'm sorry. But this kind of stuff, you've got to clean up your house, and this stuff just cannot be tolerated. You just don't see that. I just know from covering the Heat when they won titles, and I know that's extreme because Pat Riley is kind of a dictator. But you've got to establish some rules. I'm sure Andy Reid has rules in Kansas City, and Howie Rosen has them in Philadelphia, their GM, and Ozzie Newsome had them in Baltimore. And these things, they carry on for a while. And so the Dolphins they've got to get their house in order, discipline wise, and everything else. You've got to get stuff straight, and then you can talk about going after Buffalo and Kansas City and Baltimore and teams like that.
Fair enough. I do want to point out, however, because you mentioned you threw Tampa Bay in there. I don't believe Tampa Bay made trades to get or surrendered a lot of premium picks to get players in trades. I think he got Gronk maybe for a 4 or something.
Yeah.
And then Brady was a free agent. And then the Rams traded I don't know how many picks they traded. I know they traded a pick or 2 for Stafford, but it's the Dolphins again. It's it's a 1 for Chubb. It's a 1 and a 2 for Tyreek, and a 3 for Ramsey. Where that price was very low for the caliber of player. The issue with him is the cap space that he's taken up because you redo his contract every other year, and who knows, maybe they'll redo his contract, give him another extension right now. Why not? Sorry. Senior Bowl is this week. Dolphin assistant offensive line coach Lemuel Jean-Pierre was tabbed to help coach the offensive line for the national team. Perkins, am I at liberty to say where you are right now?
Yeah. I'm in Mobile. I'm here. I'm on site for the Senior Bowl. Can't wait. Everything is going to get going tomorrow with the practices. I am going to be looking at a lot of these interior offensive linemen to see what they can add to the Dolphins. And look, I'll tell you this, Poop. I'm probably not going to be looking to, for the Dolphins to draft a guard before the 3rd round, maybe the 2nd round, but you did get Rob Hunt and Eichenberg, and I don't mean to bring up a bad thing with Eichenberg, but that's not
going to elicit any comments. No.
Right, exactly. But I'm thinking the 3rd round you could probably get a quality starter. So I'll say 2nd or 3rd round here, and then free agency get another starter. But that's primarily what I'm going to be looking at. I like running back. I like slot receiver. Xavier Restrepo is here from UM. There's going to be a lot of guys here that the Dolphins could potentially get. But look, and you probably agree with me. the first 3 rounds are the picks that I want to see Chris Grier hit on. After that, you're kind of taking a flyer. Maybe the 4th round you could get a starter, maybe offensive line or something like that. But the first 3 rounds, and Chris Grier has been pretty good the last few years in the first 2 rounds. I know Liam Eichenberg is in there and Cam Smith is in there, but the first 2 rounds, when you've gotten Javon Holland and you've gotten Rob Hunt and Tua and Austin Jackson, and I know Noah is in there. We'll see what Chop Robinson is. We'll see what Patrick Paul is. I think the first 2 rounds have been good. They've been good. It starts falling off in the 3rd round. When and Achane is a good one, but when you start having Channing Smith or Channing Tindall, I'm sorry, I was combining Channing Tindall and Cam Smith. When you have Channing Tindall and these other guys that you need quality players in the 3rd round and probably the 4th. That's to me is when Chris Grier's recent drafts start falling off. Say since 2020, the last 5.
And then in 2020, they took Brandon Jones in the 3rd round, who was a serviceable player for the Dolphins, goes to Denver as a free agent, and he becomes basically a Pro Bowl player.
See, and that's part of, Poop, that's part of knowing what you've got, right? And you let Van Ginkel go, and you let Brandon Jones go, and you let Rob Hunt go, and Christian Wilkins, and like all of this homegrown talent. And in some cases, like with Wilkins and Hunt, and I don't know about Javon, you're waiting a year too late. Like you needed to identify what you had and get them on the cheap and understand that they're going to get better. You drafted them. Like you should know this stuff. And that's kind of the thing that really kind of puzzles me about the Dolphins. It's like we've talked about the assistant coaches they've had on the staff, from Todd Bowles to Dan Campbell to Zach Taylor, Lou Anarumo, Darren Rizzi. You've got to be able and look ahead. Look ahead with Rob Hunt and Christian Wilkins and some of these guys, and be able to understand what you have, understand what you did to get these guys, and what they could be in the future.
So I think what we've decided is the problem maybe isn't so much the scouting department, but rather the self-scouting department.
They've got a lot of problems, but that's a big one right there. Like when you've got the guy, keep him in the building.
Yeah, and you can't give big second contracts to 20 players all over the place, but you do need to be able to build a foundation of players who make it to their second contract, and then you supplement with good productive players who are on their first contract to build some balance on your roster, which what certain teams are very adept at doing. Cough, cough, Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions was also put together quite the roster. Dolphins are not there. Will they get there? Will they get there with the guys currently in charge? They
better do it this year.
I was going to say, if it's going to happen, better happen soon. Right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. Senor Perkins, you enjoy your week in Mobile, Alabama.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will.
What's on the menu in Mobile, Alabama? I was there. I went to the Senior Bowl maybe 3 years. I can't remember exactly what it was. They were the area is famous for in terms of culinary specialties.
Oh, they're the South, so they're a lot of barbecue, and then they're close to New Orleans. Always fly to New Orleans. It's just 2 hours away, so you still get a lot of Cajun food down here. A lot of red beans and rice. A lot of fresh fish because we're right here on the Gulf Coast. A lot of barbecue because we're in the South. So a lot of good stuff. A lot of good food down here, man. I like coming down here. I've really started to warm up to the city. The birthplace of Hank Aaron, by the way.
How about that? Crawfish, shrimp etouffee.
Yep. All that. Yep. All of that. Yep. Gumbo. All of that, baby.
Very nice.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Enjoy the food. Enjoy the week of football, and we'll talk again soon. For everyone out there, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. He's Chris Perkins. Check out his work at the South Florida Sun Sentinel, sunsentinel.com. You can catch my work, Alan Poop, at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Until have a great rest of your Monday.